So rather than me reading long introductions, we're going to have each panelist do a brief introduction of themselves and just tell you a little bit so that we can really feel like the speakers we've had this morning, that we're just having a conversation together. So I'm going to facilitate a little bit, but we're going to have each one of them, you know, I don't know if we want to go down the row or just start with whoever feels that they'll pass the mic along to do that. So who would like to go first? Sara. Oh, see, this is Minnesota, sorry.
My name is Pam. There we go. Okay, my name is Pam Cole. I am a physical therapist and a certified wound specialist. So that means that I'm all about tissue repair. 19 years of my career as a PT has been as a wound specialist. So I help people heal wounds, bed sores, surgeries that open up, venous leg ulcers, arterial wounds. So it's a unique subspecialty of physical therapy. And I just resigned as adjunct faculty at the U of M, teaching the wound care course to the doctoral physical therapy students. I'm one of the founders of the Methodist Hospital Wound Clinic. But out of my own need, I invented the She-Pack. And I've been on a 12-year journey to bring it to market. And I think that's why I may have been invited to the panel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I'm originally from Mexico City, born and raised. I moved here in August of 2013. I'm a lawyer by profession. So I came here to get my master's degree at the University of Minnesota. They offered me a really good scholarship. Then I figured that I had to take it. And it was a one-year program. I was supposed to go back to Mexico and work and be a lawyer, and that was what I was good at. And then I decided to stay here. And I bought a business. I'm the only female cigar shop owner in the Midwest, and actually one of the very few in the entire country. So I ended up just changing my entire life and moved without anybody. All my family is back in Mexico, to come here and be my own boss and kind of in pursuit of happiness, because if I wasn't going to do it, nobody was going to do it for me. So that's kind of a little bit of what I did.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sara Rogers. I'm the trend specialist for the Mall of America. I'm also a wardrobe consultant. I have been a trend specialist for over 15 years now, and people always ask me, what is a trend specialist? And actually, it is a role that was created for me. A lady by the name of Maureen Cahill found me commentating a fashion show for Dayton's, came up to me and asked me if I had a contract with Dayton's, and I didn't, and asked me for my number. She never called me. I was actually on a modeling job at Care 11, and she was in the green room. And she said, oh my gosh, I've been trying to reach you, but I didn't have your phone number. And she said, we'd like for you to do a television segment for us on Care 11 talking about swimsuits. And it went really well. And they asked me on that day if I would consider being the trend specialist for the Mall of America, so promoting the mall, interacting with the media, talking about trends. So in essence, I'm a student of the mall. I'm constantly searching, new information. And I love my wardrobe consulting business. I was doing that before I was asked to be the trend specialist. And that really for me is more about wardrobe education, not just personal shopping, but really empowering individuals with the knowledge they need to dress for success and look their personal best.
Hi, I'm Cheri Berenak. I'm president and CEO of Clearfield, and Clearfield is a public company here in town, and I think I'm here to prove that the glass ceiling can be broken, because I'm one of the 6 female CEOs of a public company in Minnesota. Yeah. And so I think it's I probably need some help in regard to the trend-setting world. It's been a world of, I've lost 80...
It's such pressure. Such pressure having her here.
Yeah, so I'm proud of a lot of things, but probably most personally that I lost 80 pounds in the last 18 months. Yeah. And so I think there's a standpoint of what's important for each of us is to take care of ourselves, to recognize our potential, and make sure we put ourselves first in order to make that happen.
Thank you. My name is Kalia Yang. I'm a writer, a public speaker, and a teacher. 8 months ago, I gave birth to identical twin boys. I am a small woman. So that's one of my big life accomplishments so far. But I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a large panel here, so I'm sorry to the group of my left. I know we have a little obstructed viewing, so if you want to come up to the front row, you're more than welcome to. But thank you, everybody, for that introduction. I'd like to just sort of start with kind of a general question of who did you turn to get some mentorship or advice along your journey? If anybody wants to share somebody that pops into mind. Deanna?
Well, for me, my mom. My mom was the first love of my life. She still is, sorry, baby. And she's just an amazing woman. I would not be here. I would not be half the person that I am today if it was not for her. I don't know where she gets her strength. I guess it's from being a mom. I don't know. I'm not a mother, but she's like a constant and daily source of inspiration. So when I'm feeling a little bit down, I know that my mom is there. And even though she's back in Mexico and I don't get to see her often, I'm just grateful that she's there. So she has been my hero.
I can go next. I think this makes sense coming after a mother. For me, it's a woman named Jolie, my grandmother. She never went to school. She never learned how to read and write. When we came to America, by the time I was born, she had over 100 grandchildren, so she was very experienced. But my grandma was amazing. When I was younger, I grew up poor on the east side of St. Paul, and we didn't have cable television, so we watched Baywatch a lot. And Pamela Anderson had beautiful teeth, and I really wanted braces. And so I used to bug my mom and dad. And one day, my grandma looked at me, and she smiled, and she only had a single tooth. All of my life with my grandma, she only had a single tooth on the bottom. It had grown so long that the dentist couldn't create dentures for her because they'd have to pull out the single tooth. But my grandma smiled, and she said, "Is my smile not beautiful?" And that, with that single tooth, we took down Jolly Ranchers, ice cubes, gnawing on bones. She was a magic person in my life. When the planes flew overhead, she told me to send my wishes on the planes, because that meant that they were somewhere in the world waiting to be found. She gave me ways of seeing windows in the places I've only ever known walls. So my grandma was my role model, my hero, remains. She's passed away, but I see her smile all the time. So it is still her smile that I look to.
Yeah, well, I had taking a little different bent on it. I had a variety of men in my life who were the traditional problem, right? I had one of my first jobs in the city. I was going to run opportunity to run the department, and I walked up behind this chief operating officer talking to the president, saying, "A woman is never going to run marketing in my company." Yeah, and so I'm like, okay. A week later, I'm no longer part of the company, and. The opportunity really was from a standpoint of recognizing that man was not all men and all opportunities within it. And so a subsequent opportunity, I really have been blessed with men who recognize the opportunity of kind of sticking their neck out a little bit 25 years ago and being really leaders in their own right. And I think one of the things we have to recognize is we have to sponsor each other as women, but also recognize the potential of the men around us who are really making things happen and who have helped us make things happen. So I have several of those individuals in my world who have both been big brothers and really father figures who have looked out and saw the potential and helped pave that way.
And I would like to segue from that. I actually had a series of, no one single female mentor, but a series of gentlemen who had stepped up to the plate to help me. They saw my passion, they saw what I believed in, and then they being men who have no idea what we go through when our vagina is off kilter. Like, they
This
actually...
is still the PG panel?
Yeah. We came from a non-PG lunch.
PG-13, I'll give you, Pamela.
And I just put it out there, but I will try. I will do my best. So having a series of men who believed in guiding me through the muddy waters of becoming an inventor, how to make something, like which manufacturer do you go to? And then how do you bring it to market and all? And so I would like to add, how do you know when to shift gears or to jump through this window that's presenting itself to you? How do you navigate when doors are opening and closing? And I'd like to actually bring in a little bit of my spirituality. So whatever spiritual path you follow or don't follow, isn't there that nudge, that guidance where you just are getting too much resistance, or there isn't, there's that feeling of discord, like, we have to learn to trust those instincts and to be willing to leave what may be familiar and old to move into the new. And that for me, being grounded in knowing that someone or something is looking out for my best interest, and to trust that and follow whatever that sounds like for you, to go with that that isn't all mystery and magic. For me, it was a very real form of guidance.
Great, thank you for that.
I would have to say my mother, but beyond that, all of my blessings have come from women. Just starting with when I was getting into modeling, Dayton's was such an important factor in my growth and in all the opportunities that I have had. But when I had the aspiration to be a model, Dayton's used to have runway auditions where you would just show up and, walk, and they rejected me like 3 years in a row. But I kept coming back. And then one day I was reading like Glamour magazine, and I saw this really stylish girl, and I got this light bulb in my head to kind of dress just like her. And then I just made an impromptu visit to the fashion office, and I said, sorry to show up looking like this, but I had done it on purpose to look like that. And Karen Pedro was the head of the fashion office. She goes, oh my gosh, where have you been? And that gave me the light bulb that image was so important. Maybe when I was going to those auditions before, I wasn't looking the part. And then beyond that, the other ladies at Dayton's, and I started modeling. My first modeling job, by the way, was the grand opening of Burnsville Mall. So it's been a while since I started. But from there, I had actually a lady approach me about teaching modeling. Her name was Deb Selseth. And back in that time, you needed to have so many hours as a model to be certified to be a personal development modeling instructor. And I met that criteria. And so I had that opportunity. And then as I'm modeling for Dayton's, I guess just my personality, when new models would come along, they'd ask me to help them. And there were some print girls that weren't really runway models, but they were really pretty. So they're like, Sara, could you help her? And they just kind of liked how I interacted with people. And so Peggy Hammerson and Joanne Young gave me the opportunity to start commentating, choreographing fashion shows in Rochester. It grew where I was traveling and working in Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, all for Dayton, Hudson, Marshall Fields. And from that opportunity, they got to know me, and they said, gosh, you'd be great at giving seminars for prom, for business casual, and so that's how all of my roles came into play. And then that's when Maureen Cahill from the Mall of America found me. And then another instance that happened was I was also modeling for the home shopping network in town. It's called Evine Live now, but back then it was called Value Vision. And one of the hosts saw me on television with, for the Mall of America, Roxanne Battle, who will be here later on today. I was so gracious, first time on her show, as a trend specialist for the Mall of America. She was super, super nice to me. But Michelle Murphy saw me on that show, and that day when I came into Motto at Value Vision, she said to me, I saw you on that show, you were so good. And I was thinking to myself, I could never do what she does. She talks about nothing forever. I just could never do that. She said, you should be a host here. And she said, you should audition. I'm telling Human Resources about you. And they came up to me and said, would you audition? I'm like, well, I'm used to getting rejected. I get that all the time in modeling. And so I said yes, and they asked me to be a host. So all of my blessings have come from not just one individual, but multiple individuals. And Judy Zimmer, who's in the audience now, has helped me with, some of my LinkedIn presence. And so it's not just one, it's multiple. So that's the reason why I wanted to be here today. Usually I say no to these things. I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about wardrobe, empowering, and fashion and style. But this is a really special group where you can inspire individuals. So if anything that I've learned or any of my journeys help to inspire you to don't give up, have perseverance, and to definitely help to empower other women, I think it's a good thing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. So I hear a lot of some family influences, a spiritual influence, and some workplace influences. So Cheri, I'm actually curious, how did you approach some of your mentors, or sort of first seek them out, or know that you were going to get some counsel?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity as you watch the interaction with a person, you can know when there's approachability and when there's not. And so, people provide, communication. My master's degree is in mass communication. And so I think one of the things that you work through is look at the signals that are being sent to you from an individual, because you know when somebody's got a closed door and when someone has an open door. And taking advantage of that open door is really, asking for help, because there's a boundary between an individual being pushy versus being an individual that's just there for guidance. Probably my best example of that is a gentleman that had nothing to, he had his master's degree was in pharmacy, right? And we were running a technology company together, and had absolutely no frame of reference as to what we were doing. And he goes, so you're going to be the product manager of the Apple team? And I'm like, I'm not, my frame of reference was my first job. I wanted nothing to do with computers and nothing to do with numbers. And my first job was accounting software. So I screwed it up from the beginning. But the orientation of seeking out an individual was finding someone who gives you enough rope to learn things, but not enough to hang yourself. Right? And so if you can find that kind of an individual, grab it.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, now Deanna, I'm curious, you and I spoke, and I have yet to visit the Perfect Ash, but
you have to.
I will be coming there. Yep, my daughter's not here, but I'll bring my interns. We can all go to your store. But I'm curious, did you seek out different advisors as you were buying the business? You were making a career transition.
Advisors, well, I relied mostly on myself, to tell you the truth. I started working with a broker when I started looking into businesses to buy, and I started looking into businesses anywhere but Minnesota. When I first moved in here and winter stroke, I was like, I don't know how anybody voluntarily would live here. It was just awful. Mexico City and everything, it was just a huge transition. But that's kind of what I did as a lawyer. I was a legal director of a company for probably 7 years. So that was one of the main things that I needed to do, do my due diligence in order to see what businesses should be bought, what transactions should be made, negotiated, how to do it. So I kind of had the skills, the set of skills in order to be able to do my homework. My dad is an accountant by profession. He's a very successful business owner as well. I sought his advice a little bit, but mostly it was myself. And honestly, a lot was my gut feeling. It was the tobacco industry in Minnesota. We have one of the highest tobacco taxes in the country, along with Washington. It's 95% of the wholesale price goes to tobacco tax. we have all the smoking bans and everything. So even though I saw those kind of obstacles on the road, I followed my instinct, my gut feeling. I relied on the previous owner who's around here. Now she became my adopted mother here in Minnesota. And I just decided to not let my fears take the best of me and just go for it. And fortunately, it has worked out. And I'm very passionate about what I do. I go all in everything that I do. So I think that's one of the things that has made me successful in such a male-dominated industry like this one, or being a lawyer in a country where like machismo is the thing. So it was
Great, thank you. Kalia. Okay, we haven't had a chance to speak because you've been busy doing all your book launches and had a big event last night. I'm curious, how did you kind of make the transition into being an author?
I was at Carleton College, and I was studying to become a doctor because, like lots of children of immigrants and refugees, we're taught to become doctors and lawyers. You know, lawyers protect the rights that we've never had enough of. Doctors heal what is broken in our bodies. So my older sister Doug said she'd be the lawyer, and I kind of accepted that I'd be a doctor. So I was studying American Studies, Cross-Cultural Studies, and Women and Gender Studies because I thought to be a good doctor, I had to be able to see the world from an interdisciplinary lens. But my grandma died. We had talked about graduation. It was December 2003, and I would be graduating in just months, and my grandma died. But she promised me that she would never die, you know. And I remember her lying in my uncle's house in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, and I'm telling her to get up. And Grandma said to me that a long time ago there were people who loved her before me, that she had a mom and a dad and brothers and sisters, and even her most precious little girl, and that they were all somewhere waiting for her because there's no Hmong land in the map of a bigger world. She was going to climb the Hmong mountain in her heart, go back to the house of her youth and swing open those doors, and dinner would be ready, and everybody would be there, and they'd say, "Where have you been? We've been waiting for so long. Why are you so late in coming home?" When we first got to America, I was 6 years old, and when I started learning English, I hated the subject, the verb, the noun. But Grandma lived in California, and we lived here, and this is pre-family plans and cell phones, and we couldn't afford the long-distance phone calls. So I learned how to write so I could write her love letters. And my grandma can't read, but on the day that they buried her, my aunts went through her 13 suitcases, because Grandma never had a room of her own. She carried 13 suitcases from the house of one child to the next. One of them was full of all of the letters that my sister and I had written to her. And some of them she'd wiped so often with her hands the ink had run off, and you could only see the impression on the page. But when my grandma died, I started writing this long love letter to her. And my dad said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a love letter to Grandma." And he said, "You know that when you dream in the right direction, dreams never die. They only grow bigger. You don't wake up." And so I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if the world knew Jolie along with me? So that letter became The Late Homecomer, my first book. And, you know, they say that to survive as an artist is harder than to become a professional athlete in America. But you do what you do because of love. And it takes 5 years to write a book. For me, it took 4. And it's been 8 years, you know, and so that it's been 8 years since the Late Homecomer for the song Poetry emerged. I do what I do because I love it so much. I do what I do because my people are new to what is written. And no matter how afraid I become, no matter how unsure I am of my abilities, I know that I'm the happy ending that they've been waiting for. And so you do it, and you become. And I love this life as a writer. I love this life as an artist. I love the opportunity. My daddy says that when I write on the page, but when I speak, I get to write on the fabric of the human being. And so that's what I'm here to do.
I'm not going to look at the audience because I know there are a few people that are crying and very moved by what you have to say. And we've had a long emotional day, and that was really lovely. So I'm not looking at the audience right now. But that was lovely. So I can't wait to read your book. How about Pamela? Tell us a little bit about you. You sort of have lived in both worlds of working and following your passion, and how have you found that strength?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so some days I don't know where to find the strength except in others. I still work 30 hours a week at the hospital, and I am still, I would say, like, tissue repair lives with me. Like, if you want to heal, come see me, because that's my passion. And then I'm a consultant in the field, and yet I have this other thing that's about tissue repair in a completely different area. And so I feel like I'm living two lives sometimes. I don't know about you guys, but as you're transitioning from one dream or career into the next, I have meltdowns. I do cry, I do journal, I do map things out just to keep them straight in my head. But I will say that mentorship, it does make a difference, or the people I go talk to get my grounding again. It takes lists, it takes heart. It's like head and heart together. I know that I'm stealing that from Park Nicollet, because it's our little motto is head and heart together. But it takes not only having the intellect that each of you possesses, but also the heart to do it. So I would agree that this invention that I have is one of my passions. I'm not giving up on women who are postmenopausal and sex is painful. I'm not giving up on those who have painful sex syndromes like clitoridemia, vulvodynia, and I continue to get my strength from being out there. I've been to expos and health fairs, and women are crying. They are telling me about the stress in their relationships, and their stories get me excited. So I think at some point, the work that we do is beyond us. It's our service. Like, when you are so passionate about the thing that you're up to that it calls you forth, it talks to me, I can't get away from it. I think that that's almost required to keep going against all odds, is your passion, what you love, and then, do a really good job at it and take someone with you.
Thank you. All right. Sara, would you like to just share a little bit? You talked about some of the rejections, or how you've managed to maneuver in your career. What are some of your sort of biggest strengths, or what would you do over? Aside from the outfit that I'm wearing today, everybody. It was really painful to have your fashion stylist come when it's like 45 degrees out and you're wearing like black winter tights, and this is
I'm
so
wearing
not fashionable.
tights.
Yeah,
It's
but you're wearing
cold
like
outside.
cute tie-up boots, Anyway.
I think my strengths are my passion. I'm very professional. I learned as a model that you show up 15 minutes early, you come to work even when you're sick, you do the best that you can do no matter what. So I think I'm just driven. I work well under pressure, fast-paced. Those would be my strengths. My weaknesses, I'm not good at tooting my own horn. I'm not good at this social media stuff, like even telling everybody that I was going to be here today. I just don't know how to do that. I'm old school. We used to be more private, and you keep your business to yourself, and you just don't brag. I feel like it's bragging, and my friends keep telling me it's not bragging. You're just supposed to share. So, but that would be my weakness. That I am happier helping others and talking about things that I think will help them, and not so much about me.
We can help you with the social media. We'll do a group shot at the end of this. That'll
be terrific.
So I got that. And Judy's Zimmer,
Kathy,
you'll take it. So.
One more thing about the wardrobe
About my
thing,
outfit?
because when I came in today, a couple people said, "Oh my gosh, I was so nervous that you were going to be here and what I'm wearing." And I got to tell you something. I really don't look at people like that until they invite me to. Quite honestly, I just have to tell you that quite candidly. Even when I'm at the mall and I'm walking around, I don't look and say, "Ooh, what was she thinking today?" It just, if you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, you might have a better understanding. Having the opportunity and the blessings that I have to work with so many women from so many backgrounds, I'm just not in a place to sit from judgment. Actually, what I do is I look for inspiration. So I'm like, ooh, love how she put that together, note to self. You know, that can work for me too.
Great. The positive view of things.
Yes.
So I love that.
Yes.
Anybody else want to share some of their either lessons learned or strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, I need help. One of my weaknesses is burning the candle at both ends and driving myself into the ground and getting sick. Who does that? And if not, like, I need to talk to you because I will just go and not stop and pace. Like, I hear there's this pacing thing or compartmentalizing. So that's not a strength. And a lesson learned for me, there was a point at which I had a business partner, and we went in 50-50. And I'm the inventor, and I'm a woman, and this person was male. And I wish, like, I think one of the questions you had us prepare was, what, if I could go back and do something differently, I wish I had trusted the one little small sentence from one other lawyer that said, that's a really bad idea to go like 50-50 on anything. You need someone to have the final say. And then trusting I didn't listen to the instinct at that point because I just thought I'd be giving up on my dream if I didn't have this person helping me out, and it's so not true. So I wish I would have sought out more advisors and at least interviewed 3 other people, and then not made an emotional decision. So I would, again, go with your gut on those things. It was ugly getting out of it too, by the way. It's just, and it's possible. I had another investor come and say, I'm willing to help you buy this person out. I can't believe it. Like, it just worked out. So maybe, yes, trust your intuition and get like at least 3 opinions.
Well, may I?
Please.
So one of the things that I like about this whole cigar smoking is that it's a lifestyle. And part of this lifestyle is that cigar smokers know that sometimes you need to stop in order to get somewhere. And it's okay to just stop and say, and maybe sometimes being a little bit selfish, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I need a day to myself. I invented this, we shouldn't go 50-50. Just, a great model, I'm a great host. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your accomplishments. Anybody here, so just stop and being a little bit selfish and loving and just acknowledging that we are all important, so.
Great. One second, Cheri, because Pamela, I believe it has come to my attention that you haven't shared yet with the audience what it is that you've invented. You've sort of hinted around it, but I think we'll take, 30 seconds to just say what it is.
Okay.
And for those of you that are in the PG version, this may get to PG-13. So
It is. So actually, I thought lunchtime was a great prelude. She-Pack is a feminine ice pack for when women have vaginal inflammation, burning, itch, irritation. And so it's an ice pack in a shape, which has a particular look to it that I shouldn't apologize for because it just matches our anatomy. But I invented it because and I'm just going to be blunt with you guys because I'm in healthcare, but I had a series of yeast infections that drove me bananas. I did not have I don't know that I have a problem. I knew I had a problem. And then once you've had one, you know to go to the doctor. And so once you've been to the doctor, you know to get the medication. I just needed relief. I started rigging stuff. It worked. I got relief. And then I was like, women should know about this. And then my mom's friend said I could use that with postmenopausal intimacy, and I wish I had that when Joey was born. And it just started to take a life of its own. But I am interested in addressing medical needs that women are having around pain, inflammation, and swelling. And as a PT, we ice inflammation, we don't heat it, and it's something that gets you relief until you can get the, diagnosis, medication. I'm not saying skip any of that. So it has been an interesting journey in coming up with an idea and then bringing it to market. And my biggest difficulty was actually the patent office. I think there needs to be a little bit more guidance around independent inventors, interfacing with them, or some advocacy. I don't know. So to answer the question, do you all know what ShePack is now? And it's an interesting subject, but
It's all right.
I'm all for us being empowered. How's that?
That's great, because we're all talking about it now, so thanks to Dr. Earhart. Cheri, were you going to say something? Okay. Would you like to say anything?
So my grandma always, she sat by the window a lot, and she would look out the window because she couldn't drive and she didn't speak English. The only English word she spoke was low and no, so two. Low and then no and hung up. That's my grandma's routine. But she said to me that one day, although I was very young, one day I would become an old woman, and that it would be my memories that would be my friends. That the people who loved me, the food, my favorite foods, all of these things would become memories. And she wanted me to go into the world and create memories so I wouldn't be lonely as an old woman. And I asked her how, and Grandma said to me, words that I live by. She says that life is just moments spread on the thread of time. And if I gave, to give your all to all of life is a lot. You can't conceptualize it, you can't live it. But if I gave my all to one moment, then I open up the possibility for the next. And that's really been a strong source of guidance for me. And then as a shaman, a medicine woman, and a healer, she was very keen on helping. And so she always said to me, every time you have the power to help somebody, you have the ability to hurt them. Remember that. And I think this is particularly prudent for a group of women like this.
Very good. Thank you. I can only hold one, though. And you weren't able to be here because of your twins, but the whistles, should you like a whistle to use to blow at any time to anybody, you're welcome to it. Okay, let's take a little bit of a shift of what did you think, any of the panelists, to work the hardest at to get to where you are today?
I think one of the biggest challenges is when you're starting your career, you become a subject matter expert, right? And you achieve a level of success based upon being the best at it. So I was in marketing, so I became really good at marketing. And as a subject matter expert in marketing, I ran a department, in marketing. Yeah, but from the next career standpoint, when I became president, right, there were engineers that were much better at engineering, than I was. And there were my manufacturing team knew operations and quality and the metrics associated with lean manufacturing, which I knew nothing about. And so part of that journey, I think, to answer the question, is about getting comfortable with the fact that you have to surround yourself with people who know their areas better. Your job is to be able to listen and lead. Yeah, and so when we formed Clearfield, Clearfield's 8 years ago when we formed Clearfield, we were a division of a public company that had not made a dime in 20 years. Right? And so this is a world of public company markets where they were really good at raising money, raised $40 million, and over a period of 20 years had never made a dime and had about $4 million left. We had a market cap of $10 million as a public company with a bunch of men who didn't know what they were doing. And so when I went to the board and said, we have this idea, we can turn this company around, but it's really not about engineering. It's about listening to customers to be able to understand their needs, develop a technology that addresses it, and then after it's been in the field, celebrating that success. Yeah, and the product line is about bringing optical fiber to each home and business in the United States, which today is really an emerging market. But 8 years ago, that was something way out of their comfort zone. And so it had to be creating an environment of being comfortable with the leadership, the vision, because you go from being a subject matter expert to a visionary and getting comfortable with that concept. Yeah, and so in that vision, today my company's worth $250 million over an 8-year period. Yeah. And so I think an orientation as you walk through that is identify where you want to be, surround yourself with the people who can help make that happen, and just make sure that the individuals that you're working with, trust you. Yeah, because I think it's really part of what you said, how you can help is how you can hurt. Is if there's not a level of trust, in your organization, it slows everything down. Yeah, and competitive intelligence is about speed and nimbleness. And so whatever you can do in your environment to embrace speed, to embrace trust, creates the competitive advantage that others don't offer.
Great answer.
Hello. Yeah. In my case, it was overcoming the stereotype that I was just heels and hair and a dress. That I could do more than just marry young and be somebody's trophy wife or accessory for parties, especially in a country like Mexico. That I could be the legal director of a company and command the attention of a room full of men who were, some of them 10, 15, 20 years my age, and actually know what I was talking about and be able to lead the company into a successful road. Just those stereotypes that sometimes can be so hurtful, and all those rejections, etc., when you go and apply to a job and they're like, yeah, we're looking for a man, and we're looking for somebody who's older. Well, God knows I'm gonna turn 30 for as long as I can pull it off, so I can't do anything about my age. But I had to show that I was more than just a girl, as they would call me, and that I was actually a lawyer, and that I was actually able to be successful and very good in a profession where it's like male dominated. So right now I'm doing also the same thing in the cigar industry, where people are like, what's a girl like you doing here? Well, you know what I'm doing? I'm taking your money. That's what I'm doing.
Nice. One of the things I've had to work hardest at is I'm a clinician. I'm not a business major, and I understand that, and I know that putting a marketing and business plan together is not going to be my strength or skill set, but to also not limit myself to that. So it's good to get people to help me with that, but I've had to work the hardest at saying, but I am a good business owner, and I am going to be successful despite all that, and that I do know my business, and I could shift into being curious. Like, I wonder what I would learn if I did the business plan. I wonder what I would learn if I studied this market a little bit better. I may have a gut instinct and I'm in the field talking to women, but I think it's the labels of I'm a clinician, I'm not a business major, but I can learn that. I could be good at it, and I could learn something, and I can still have someone do that later when I have money so I'm looking for another round of funding, and I'm going to hire, but I don't know, the boxes and labels and things that we say to ourselves, I fall prey to that, and I have to work hard at getting out of that and being creative anyway.
Great. Hello? Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. You're good. No, he'll turn it on.
I turned it off.
Greg will turn it on for you, so go ahead.
Oh.
We got Sarah, the stylish one. Yeah, no, everybody's stylish.
Yeah, I accidentally hit the power button. Here, take this one. I'll fix it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. When it comes to learning, I mentioned before I'm a student of the mall. I'm constantly learning by walking around and going to the different stores, interacting with managers, merchandisers, sales consultants. I work with the PR department at the Mall of America. They provide me with a lot of information. I read my magazines in Style, Women's Wear Daily, Business of Fashion. So I'm always taking in information that way. For my wardrobe consulting business, it started when I was modeling. I was fortunate enough to once I got in there, I really worked a lot. Minneapolis has been very good to me. I used to be in the Target Circular every week, and Dayton's used me quite a bit, and so I was present when there were a lot of wardrobe seminars going on, and a lot of people were sharing information about how things were made and how they flatter, and I was taking it in. I was very interested in it, and I continue to read everything I can about dressing for your body type. Stacy London from What Not to Wear had an agency called Style for Hire. I read about that, and I went to New York. I was trained by her as well. She was a firm believer in dressing for your body type. I believe in fashion, but I'm more into style as well. Her exact words to me were, "You know your SHIT," when I parted the present seminar that she gave, and invited me to be one of her stylists. She since has let the agency go, but I continue to just aspire to learn from working with individuals. I had like my first opportunity this year to work with a transgender individual. And I was so nervous, excited, anxious to help, because I come from a place of wanting to help individuals, and it was such a wonderful experience to be able to help her dress her personal best, because I'm into body types. It's the same thing. It just had the labeling that came with it, and I just hadn't done it. So like anything else, I feared it a little bit, and I just loved it, and we just really connected, and I hugged her. I probably should have paid her because I learned so much, and it just opened me up and just helped me to grow. And so for me, it's all about growing and learning, and that's just a daily deal.
Great. Anybody else have anything they want to share on this topic?
When I was a kid, I was in a minority encouragement program, and it was a program for low-income kids who aspired to go to college. But we did all these leadership training workshops and stuff, and I came up with an answer to leadership that I think has guided me and is very useful. I said that a leader was somebody who lived a life that others would willingly and voluntarily follow. And that's been really key to my development of myself, especially as a writer. My sister's a lawyer, and people want to know what she's doing. One of my cousins is a doctor, and they want to know what he's doing. Nobody asks me, what's your next great line? Nobody, nobody cares. And that's the thing. A work of art only begins to live the moment it is completed. And to live as a writer is to live a lonely life. To live as an artist is to take from everything you all said, but to live as a writer is a lonely life. Except that not a lot of writers make livings as a writer anymore. I wouldn't be here with you if I hadn't been able to carve out a career as a public speaker. Because so often people tell me all the time, we don't buy the book because a Hmong family memoir. When the book was going to come out, Barnes & Noble didn't want to carry it because they said that they didn't even know if Hmong people bought books. Plus, the Vietnam War was such an unpopular chapter in American history. It was independent women's groups, book groups, that picked up the book, raised it up the ranks, the national ranks, and then called it into the bookstores. It's been that kind of a journey for me. I get invited to speak, and I'd ask for a speaking fee, and they'd say, Garrison Keillor can do it for free. And I said, I'm not Garrison Keillor. If I were him, I too could afford to do it for free. But I'm not Garrison Keillor, and I'm here, I'm me. I think that the most important part of this whole journey, and I think everybody's life journey, is realizing that we become who we are because of the hard things. It is, and there's a beautiful proverb that says, these mountains that we're meant to climb, so many of us end up carrying. And so much of my work is about unloading all of the secrets. My mom and my dad have lived for a long time in this country. They have not had the words to be understood. People ask them, what are you people doing here? There was an incident, where my dad dropped a handful of coins, and he bent down to pick it up, and a man said, what are you people like you doing here, slowing us down? And in the car, my dad was weeping. And I said, Dad, why are you crying? And he said, I've given this country everything I have. I've given them you and your brothers and your sisters, and that is all I have to give. All of us sitting in this room, somewhere in time, there was a man and a woman, and we were the best that they had to give. And I think realizing that and claiming that and letting the world see that beauty is really much what our journeys are about. At the end of the day, It is the relationships that we leave behind. And so part of my work is building those relationships. You know, a book is out and it's this thing in the world, but nobody knows that at Coffee House Press, I had 20 people working with me every minute of the day to make sure that the book was a success. And now I come from Henry Holt, and there's hundreds of people working with me. And so as artists, I think you have to be leaders. You have to live lives that others will willingly and voluntarily follow. That is the only way to do it. You can never force understanding. It is never about agreement or disagreement. You win when you leave a room and other people realize in their hearts that they understand a little bit more about their journeys. That's what it's about.
Thank you. Lovely. I just keep taking deep breaths. It's lovely. And I read the article. You guys should go back and read the article in the Star Tribune about your book and your father and you sharing in your most recent book his stories, and it's lovely. You did miss the speaker this morning, so somebody will fill you in on what a hard journey it is to be a published author and the struggles of having a book signing, and there's a lot of other authors in the room. So everybody knows that struggle, but we'll wish you well on this journey. I'm curious to have you each share a little bit of a piece of advice with the audience, either something that you were given that you want to pass along to them, or something that you wish somebody would have told you. But imagine you're sitting out there thinking, oh, where's my next career move, or what should I do next? What's a good piece of advice you would share with them?
I would say believe in yourself. Sometimes we can be our worst enemy, and just don't let fear take over you. And if you want to start a company, if you want to invent something, if you want to move from country to country in order to just turn your life around, it's never too late. And I'm a firm believer of that everything will be okay at the end. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end. We can do so much. Just take advantage of being a woman. Don't try to be a man. We should not be equal. We're better than that. God, if you want something done, you know that it takes a woman to get things done. I'm sorry for the only guy who's the love of my life who's here, but he knows what I'm talking about. So just believe in yourself, and let's work together and empower each other. Not be catty. You have always had a friend that's like catty and jealous. No, let's just stop that, put that aside, and let's work together. We can do amazing things.
I would agree with what you said. My mother always said to me, get out of your own way. So quit playing the messages in your head that hold you back. And another thing she said to me is the same people you meet on the way up are the same people you're going to meet on the way down. So treat people with kindness would be important. And Gary Hines, leader of Sounds of Blackness, Grammy award-winning Sounds of Blackness, told me, say yes to everything, even if you fear it. So that would be my advice.
Well, I think I would say, advice was just give up the idea of balance, because there is no such thing, right? Instead, it's like, my world is a teeter-totter, right? Yeah, and so if a teeter-totter is balanced, it ain't any fun, right? You're just kind of hanging out. Yeah, and so, but when you go back and forth on that teeter-totter, so sometimes your work, requires your demands, and sometimes family requires a bigger demand, and you just shift, as you go through back and forth. 8 years ago when I got divorced, I was like, okay, how am I possibly going to be able to manage this teeter-totter? And so I had taken the first trip, that I was, going to do something for myself, and I belonged to the Women's Presidents Organization, and I had flown to Vancouver to just have a couple of days of, I need to, on this teeter-totter, work on me. And I spent 2 hours on the phone with an 8-year-old who was absolutely out of his mind, anxious about being home alone. with his grandma, right? So he was okay. Yeah, but mom wasn't there, right? Yeah, and now, 8 years later, my little one who would, I have 4 kids now, but my little one was just like, he's 18 years old, and this heck was sticking around home. I'm going to the University of Arizona, and I'm getting warm, when I go to college, and so that the switch mixes. So I would encourage teeter-totters and support to work through it, and recognizing when you need the support to make that happen. I got remarried on the 30th of December, so it was the difference of living in an environment when you don't have support to a world in which you're surrounded by people who are there to be able to make it happen. When I told my folks I was getting remarried, he's like, "You're sure?" I said, "Dad, I didn't know how much I didn't have until now I have it." Right? And so I think that's a world of creating that balance in teeter-totter world and accepting it. Oh.
When I was a kid, I used to read these history books, and you come across names like Rosa Parks, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all of these names of history, and I wondered to myself, how do you get there? How do you get to be in the history books? But what I've discovered, I'm 35 years old, what I've discovered with the publication of my first book is that history is made by men and women like you and me. Men and women like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr., people who try and fail and get up and try again. If you'd asked me where I was going to be today 10 years ago, I couldn't have told you, But I'm sitting here beside you, right? I'm the only Minnesota author to have ever won 2 Minnesota Book Awards. Never mind that I'm the youngest, never mind that I'm the only Hmong person to have ever won Minnesota Book Awards. Everything that I write from this point on, no matter how good or bad, becomes part of the body of literature for our people. It's taken hundreds and thousands of years, right? But we are what they have created. We are the makers of history. And I think remembering that helps when we're afraid. But the thing is that lives are built because of faith, not fear. If you remember that, you'll be okay.
Somebody needs to tweet that, please. Somebody needs to tweet that line of lives are built on faith, not fear, so that I remember that one later. That was lovely, lovely. So, anyone? Pamela?
Mine's a little more practical. These ladies are a hard act to follow.
We each have our own special secret sauce. So,
Yes, we do. So I would say, actually, I wish I'd done this years ago, and it's really worth it to pay for professional advice at $350 an hour than to make some $30,000 mistakes. So I'm an entrepreneur, bootstrapping, I've got still holding my regular job and still have my own personal checkbook to balance. But I now get the value of paying professionals, and many of you are professionals in certain areas. It's worth it to have the timely, correct advice and have something done well the first time. Now, we're not going to get it perfect, and I know that I am going to make mistakes, but boy, I would have saved myself heartache just by sporting a $350 check that one time. So I would just say it's good to get some help and good advice.
Great. Okay, so now we're reaching sort of the point of the panel where I'm going to turn to some of the other people that are involved. And Jan and Tammy, if you have any questions you would like me to ask of the panelists.
Why don't we ask
We'll ask the whole audience too, but I'm going in the order that I want to go with my panel. I listened to Laverne and Shirley, so Tammy, do you have any questions? Because Tammy and Jan gave me all hers, yes. We're good.
Well, one thing I will say, it's kind of a comment. It's been amazing to listen to each and every one of you, and I would like everyone to know that they did this because they support us, and they're women supporting women. So a round of applause for them.
And does anyone in the audience have any specific questions?
We'll take about two questions. So do we have anyone who has a question? Okay.
Thank you. I have a question for Cheri. So you talked about being a subject matter expert and then moving over into operations, and you also talked about how people helped you, but do you feel that education or other factors helped you as well?
Excuse me. I absolutely think that education is important, and having because college doesn't teach you subject matter expertise, college teaches you how to think. And so making sure that you take a career path or an educational background that makes that happen, and allowing yourself to kind of expose that. But I think at the underlying value of making that happen is working through a level of the trust instinct that you get from just common sense, right? I don't think common sense is all that common, right? Yeah, and so I had the wonderful opportunity. My dad's a farmer. I'm a farm girl by nature, right? And so there's a work ethic that comes from being on the farm. And so if you can apply that work ethic, the trust, the instincts within it, you can go to that next world and don't ever let somebody talk around you. Right? I had a couple of engineers who thought they could BS their way around, right? And it's like, once you can call them on it, just once, then they're in a frame of reference in which, okay, I'm not going to try to be able to, to do an end around. So make sure you listen and make sure you call them on it the first chance you got. Because there's a level of respect that comes with it, because trust and respect are extremely empowering emotions.
So while we wait for that question, the next question, you all can ponder. We're going to end with one of the things that you think you're great at, either that we know you for or that we don't know you for. So you can ponder that while we're waiting for the next question.
So this question is for Pam. Pam, your business is obviously in early stages still, as an inventor and a new product and that, and you have a room full of very talented women. What do you need for the next step that you could get from this room?
That's a great question, because I am surrounded by successful, awesome women. And that's what this is about, right? That's what this day is about. I need someone who is, so I'm looking for that next stage of development. Usually it looks like another round of cash, and that means a cash flow analysis, a CFO type, some coaches and advisors in how you go from a one-person operation to a corporation. That's where I am. Like I business plans, marketing plans, and going for another round of funding. I don't know about anyone else.
Which is a great segue. Because we do have your books over here on the other side, and she will be signing. Kalia will be signing after this. We do have Pam's product, which is over here. Sara has donated a silent auction item, and we have time during the break to talk and chat with each and every one of you as well.
Right. So great. Any last remarks, or do you want to tell the audience? This is where I had said earlier in the day, often women were not great at tooting our own horn. So you are all so successful. I'd love you to just leave everyone with like one thing you're really great at, so that they know it's okay to say the things we're good at.
I would say I'm really good at seeing the beauty in everyone. I am really an expert at not only helping you look good with your image, but working on your head too, because I do see that beauty, and I'm all about empowering and making you not only look good, but feel good.
Excellent.
Kind of using the fascination grid, I would say I'm an innovator. Even inside of my career, using science, like physiology and anatomy, to come up with new ways to heal patients with their wounds. there's the science and the art of it, and I love dabbling in the art of it and coming up with creative solutions. Yes, I then invented something and brought it to market, and I'm looking at, the different shapes and sizes and partnering products. Like, I just like to innovate and think outside the box in order to get to healing.
Excellent.
Well, I think that I'm very good at empowering people in a very practical way. I'm a little bit of the tough love kind of girl. So I'm very good at lifting somebody's spirit and kind of share my confidence with people who need it. I worked very, very hard to get to a point that I'm like myself and I love myself and I can be like, okay, you know what? Now I can share with you and you're feeling a little bit down. No, shake it off. We're gonna get over this and let's move on. A little bit of tough love, but it works. Sometimes we all need it.
I would say I'm driven, and I take that drive and push it on to all those around me. So there's a standpoint of being able to have a vision, being very goal based, and being able to work through a standpoint that God gave me a gift, and my job is to be responsible and be able to use it. And so I'm embracing that drive and making that happen.
I suck at expecting. I'm a professional at hoping.